Before Abby gets started, Ms. Tebow did splurge. We do have a championship trophy. You'll notice there's no nameplate on there because we don't know who's going to win. And then we'll send this back and get the nameplate put on. And then she's also splurged. We just got this in today, so it doesn't say Abby McMillan for last year, but then we'll have this year's winner too, and then we'll just keep rolling with this like some of our other awards. So without any further discussion, Caden is opening with William Tecumseh Sherman.
General William T. Sherman was the most impactful person in United States history. General Sherman led to the surrender of 4 Confederate states, the largest of the Confederacy, basically winning the Civil War. At Vicksburg, Mississippi, Sherman helped win one of the greatest victories of the war, which broke the Confederate grip on the Mississippi River, says PBS.org. He was the only man to receive thanks twice from Congress, once for his actions at Chattanooga, and once for the capturing of the vital city of Atlanta and Savannah. General Sherman capturing the city of Atlanta is one of the big reasons Abraham Lincoln won his second term. In Lincoln's second term, the 13th Amendment was passed and ratified, which abolished slavery. History.com says, in perhaps the boldest act of war, he led an army of 62,000 men and 2 wings with 35,000 horses and 2,500 wagons in Sherman's famous March to Sea, which was from Atlanta to Savannah, which was intended to make Georgia howl. He went through destroying all military facilities and railroad ties in his path so they couldn't be used. After he took over Savannah from the Confederates, he offered the city as a Christmas present to Abraham Lincoln. Ulysses S. Grant said that he would not have allowed anyone other than Sherman to attempt such a march, says CivilWar.org. Sherman welcomed ex-slaves to fight in his army. General Sherman then went north to Columbia, where he captured and destroyed Columbia, South Carolina. When they went to North Carolina, he left a trail of tears and ashes in his wake. He even burned the pine forest that provided tar for the state's shipbuilding. He then defeated Johnston at the Battle of Bentonville. Sherman was surprised when Johnston not only surrendered the troops in front of him, but all remaining Confederate troops in the eastern seaboard states. Later on in his military career, he followed Grant as commander-in-chief in 1869 and remained in that post until 1883. Sherman instituted tactics that later generation of American war leaders would use in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, which we all won. History.com said Sherman was also talked about as a possible Republican nominee, but he honorably turned down the offering.
Abigail Adams was by far the most influential person in American history, and she has had a greater impact on what America is today than General Sherman. In 2014, there were around 125.9 million adult women in just America, and there was around 119.4 million men in America. Women make up a greater portion of America's population. Around 72 million women get up and go to work every day. Their jobs range from generals in the military to cashiers at Walmart. Abigail Adams made that possible. Without Adams starting the women's rights movement, women would not work, women would stay at home and take care of the house duties. Raise your hand if your mom has a job and gets paid, or if any of your female family members have a job, or if you have a job yourself and you are a woman in this room.
Oh, I'm not a woman. You're not a woman.
That is most of the school. There are many of you. Now look around you. How many girls do you see in your area? Now imagine that there are only a few girls. That is what a school in Abigail Adams' time would look like. Abigail Adams was one of the many girls in her time to be robbed of their own education because of sexism within their families. According to the book Abigail Adams Alive by Winnie Holton, Abigail Adams did not get an education because her mother and father did not believe that women deserved a formal education. This is just one of the many things that women did not have the opportunity to experience in this time frame. How many women in that time frame wanted an education? Most of them. And occasionally you would come across a woman who had been convinced that she was not worthy of an education. Abigail Adams changed America by writing letters and inspiring other women to seek equality within their workplaces and homes. Abigail Adams is a great example for America's future generations. She has taught women that they deserve the same treatment as any other human being, that no one is better than them, and that there are no limits to what you can achieve. Abigail Adams never gave up. In fact, before she passed away, she wrote her own will. Keep in mind that in this time frame, A married woman could not own property, sign legal documents, enter into contracts, obtain an education against her husband's wishes, or keep wages for herself. The husbands had complete authority over their wives. Writing a will was considered a man's job. But Abigail Adams once again proved stereotypes wrong. She believed that she had every right a man had, so she wrote her own will. In her will, she wrote that most of her belongings shall go to her female friends and family. John Adams himself granted these wishes. These are just a few significant ways that Abigail Adams impacted America and what it is today in 2017.
Rebuttal time.
General Sherman's Special Field Orders Number 15, issued on January 16, 1865, set aside 400,000 acres of coastal South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida for ex-slaves to live on freely. General Sherman also had a part in the Gold Rush. While stationed in San Francisco in 1848, Sherman helped convince military governor Richard Mason to investigate one of the first reported gold discoveries in California, said History.com. This led to the population out west to explode, quadrupling and thousands of jobs to be created. The great invention of jeans, which last week I demonstrated that many people in our audience wear, were created because and during the gold rush. A total of $2 billion worth of precious gold was extracted. General Sherman had such an influence, a tank was named after him. The Sherman tank was most commonly used American tank in World War II. More than 50,000 Sherman tanks were produced between 1942 and 1955. They were used in all combat, not only by the United States, but also by Great Britain, the Free French, China, and even the Soviet Union.
According to the History Channel, in Sherman's March to the Sea, he burned down buildings and stole food and livestock to scare the civilians and show them what war was. Sherman was a very destructive human being.
Sherman was stated as saying, "War is hell." Sherman wanted to end the war as possible as he can with the least fatalities on both sides, said History.com. Abigail Adams was for and supported the Sedition and Alien Act. The Sedition Act prohibited public opposition of the government and writing against the government, which violates the First Amendment. The Alien Act gave power to deport foreigners, as well as making it harder for immigrants to vote. It went from 5 years to become a legal citizen to 14 years, says History.com and USHistory.org. On AmericanHistoryAbout.com, Adams wasn't even in the top 10 of most influential first ladies. Although Abigail Adams never owned a slave, or her husband was against abolishing slavery, and we don't hear about a famous letter about Abigail Adams saying, "Remember the slaves." Abigail Adams died on October 28, 1818. Women receiving equal rights in the 19th Amendment didn't happen until August 18, 1920, almost 102 years after her death. You say she fought for women's rights, but writing a letter with the words, "Remember the ladies," but wasn't the true fight on the battlefield when General Sherman fought to free the slaves? And guess what? Women were slaves, so he freed them from that. White females, may you please stand up for me?
Stand up.
Everyone else, can you stand up?
I got you.
Alright, this is what General Sherman fought for. Everybody in the congregation, not just half of them.
Now we pass on the liturgy.
Yeah!
Let's
go.
We'll start now, right?
Someone's all tattered painted.
Mrs. Crowley, could you please read the yellow highlighted section aloud, please?
Desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors.
Now will you please flip to the second page? On the second page, John Adams said, "As to your extraordinary code of laws, I cannot but laugh." So obviously, Abigail Adams had no impact on what John believed or did. Also, according to the History Channel, General Sherman also watched his men rape, murder, and beat people. Rape is not a part of war. Rape is brutal and inhumane. And now I would like to take a brief moment of silence for the innocent civilians who experienced the violence in this attack. Also, according to the Medical University of South Carolina, around 31% of rape victims experience PTSD, and 30% of the victims also experience multiple stages of depression throughout their lives after the assault. Judges, audience, Katie, how would you feel if someone who could easily stop this abuse just allowed it to happen because it was during a time of war? And this brutal attack was on you, your mom, grandma, grandpa, significant other, daughter, son, sister, or actually anyone in general. How would that make you feel, Kaden?
Early in General Sherman's career, he was a superintendent at a military college, which is now LSU, Louisiana State University, by the way. When Louisiana seceded from the Union in 1861, Sherman reluctantly left the state, taking a position as president of St. Louis Street Railway Company. He led a division in the Union's victory at the Battle of Shiloh. He and his men burned the city of Jackson, Mississippi until it was called Chimneyville, because only chimneys remained. General Sherman had an influence even in science. The tallest tree in the world is named after General Sherman, says the National Park Service. Sherman studied at the U.S. Military Academy, graduating 6th in the class of 1840. When Louisiana seceded from Union, he also left to become a commander. He successfully governed Memphis, Tennessee from June to December 1862. Sherman fought in the Seminole War, and he was assigned to train troops in Benton Barracks, Missouri, which is up in St. Louis.
And Abigail Adams supporting the Alien and Sedition Acts. The Alien Sedition Act was passed when we had our natives in our country spying on us. It might not sound like a good idea, but at that point, what were they supposed to do? Let the illegals stay in our country and become a danger to our people or our government? And also, could you please answer my question of how it would make you feel if somebody watched their men rape and murder your family members or yourself?
Nowhere does it say he watched them do it. And he was trying to show them that they could not win the war. He was trying to show them that they had no hope, no chance of winning this war, and wanted them to stop doing fighting so the Union can win. That way, they no deaths anymore.
By rape?
By rape.
Rape.
Here's the thing. We're not talking about how great he was outside. We're talking about his influence. This guy helped win a war, led to the gold rush, gains, inventions, freed slaves. What more influential is that? Writing one letter that is known out of over 500, 900 letters. One out of those letters.
She has multiple letters that are known. This is just the one I chose to bring today.
Just the one? Why didn't you bring all the other important ones?
Because that would take years. I mean, do you want to stand here for years and read letters by Abigail Adams to her husband John that fought for the rights of women all around the world?
Okay. Anything else? Okay, boys and girls, we're going to final statements, so give them your attention, please.
All right, last week I pointed everyone to the United States flag and said that would not be 50 stars, which is correct. But he's also the most influential in many other ways. He was a superintendent, a governor. He had things named after him. He led to the surrender of 4 Confederate states. He won many crucial battles, led to the gold rush, instilled tactics that later U.S. war leaders would use and are still using today. The endless list of Sherman's achievements made Abigail Adams look silly.
Final statement, Abby.
Abigail Adams is fire. In fact, she worked harder than any man in her time frame. The letters that I just gave the judge are letters that we have previously read in class. They are from Abigail to her husband John, a Harvard graduate, a lawyer, and the second president of the United States. The first letter is from Abigail to John. Kate, will you please read aloud section A, a statement that was written by Abigail Adams. That is the one highlighted here.
I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors.
Thank you.
Too much.
The text that was just read aloud was a statement written by Abigail Adams. In that text, she was encouraging John to remember the ladies. She went on to write about what would happen if particular care was not given to women. Mr. Christ, can you please read aloud section B that is
If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation.
The reasons why Abigail Adams worked harder than any man in her time frame are endless. But most of all, not only was she raising 4 kids, taking care of the land she shared with her husband, and doing that daily house duty, she was also fighting for the rights of women all around the world. So I'm sorry that it didn't happen right then because she had so much to do as a woman. When General Sherman was fighting the war, he didn't have to worry about anything but fighting the war. Now, I'm not saying that war is easy or enjoyable, but Sherman didn't have to worry about taking care of the children or the house duties. He had to lead the soldiers, and that was it. He relied on a woman to take care of his children. Abigail Adams didn't want that. She wanted women to be able to go to work and have the exact same legal status as men. Women's rights are still changing today, and every time women get more rights, Abigail Adams is behind it. General Sherman didn't win the wars he fought in, the soldiers who stood behind him did. And he was just given the credit. Also, in my opponent's previous debate, or just in his closing statement, he mentioned that the reason the American flag has 50 stars on it is because of General Sherman. But this is wrong, because it was actually the soldiers who fought that made that possible. Also, he actually didn't, because according to usflag.org, Robert G. Hess created the American flag with 50 stars on it, and the original ideal for a flag was from Betsy Ross, a woman, who handmade the flag with 13 stars on it. Abigail Adams was a generous person. According to the book Abigail Adams Alive by Woody Hamilton, Adams sheltered a variety of men and women, both black and white. Even one of her father's former slaves, known as Phoebe Abney. So I'm assuming that she did care about slaves. Adams wanted slavery abolished. In fact, according to PBS, she and John never owned a slave throughout their entire lives. Abigail Adams wrote letters that inspired many women to stand up for their rights. Women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who are the women who got us our voting rights in 1920, are most likely among the many women who were inspired by Mrs. Adams. Women's rights continue to change every day, and I am proud to say that Abigail Adams had a significant impact on women's rights. Adams has changed the United States for the better, without watching her men rape and murder people. And she has made the United States what it is today because without her, women would not have the same freedom that they enjoy today. So make sure you take a moment to thank Abigail Adams for fighting for the rights of your female family members, or maybe even yourself. Thank you, Abigail Adams.
Let's go, Kaden! Yeah! Let's go, Kaden!
We will give the judges just a minute to kind of get their thoughts together and make their final decisions. Just regardless, Cole Johnson, regardless of who we want to win, both these individuals deserve a final round of applause.
Let's go, Kaden! Kaden!
It's emotional for the Coach Kaiser. Abby gets hurt all the time. Watch all this.
Hey, there's that trash piece of paper again.
Mr. Cope has William Tecumseh Sherman. Coach Strike has Abigail Adams. Miss Young has Abigail Adams. Mr. Bolt has Abigail.
Garbage! Coach, the true winner! Rigged.
First of all, let's have a little lesson here. The appropriate behavior is not for somebody 4 rows up to be screaming, "This is rigged." Okay, that's inappropriate. Okay. Also, there's no reason to boo when both of these people did a fine job.
No.